They're gone, but every part of you still lives like they're here. And the worst part? You know they're not coming back, but you still hope they might. That's the prison, not the breakup, but the refusal to accept it. You replay conversations, stare at old photos, imagine different endings, but the ending is already written. The only thing left to write now is your response. This isn't just about heartbreak. This is about identity collapse. Because when someone meant everything to you, losing them feels like losing yourself. You don't know who you are without them. You don't know how to function without that daily check-in, that voice, that comfort. And so you spiral quietly. You still show up to work. You still smile at people. But inside you're bleeding out. Here's the truth no one tells you. The pain you feel isn't proof of love. It's proof of attachment. Love can be beautiful. But unchecked attachment becomes a weapon, one you turn against yourself. And if you don't learn to let go, it will keep cutting deeper, day after day. But there is a way through. Not by pretending it doesn't hurt. Not by rushing into distractions, but by facing it like a warrior. Stoicism isn't cold or detached, it's courageous. It teaches you how to feel fully without being ruled by what you feel. It shows you how to let go, not with bitterness, but with strength. And that strength? It's in you already. What follows isn't theory, it's battle-tested wisdom, mindset shifts, mental armor, the kind of clarity that pulls you out of emotional chaos and back into control. If you're ready to stop bleeding for someone who's not coming back, watch closely. Don't just nod along, move. This is Victory Stoic, the channel where we rebuild from the inside out. If this hit something real in you, like this video, subscribe if you're done being ruled by what you lost, and drop one thing in the comments, either the story that still haunts you or the inner command you're choosing now. Something like, I let go, I take back the wheel. Let's go. Number 1. You're not mourning them, you're mourning the future that never happened. You're not breaking down because they left. You're breaking down because everything you imagined with them vanished the moment they did. The Sunday breakfasts, the shared bank account, the annual road trip to Maine, the kids you planned or already had, the familiar sound of the garage door at 6 p.m., the couch that now feels too big, the feeling of home that didn't come from walls but from them walking through the door. This is not just about love, it's about structure, identity, a sense of place in the world. When someone you built a life with leaves, whether it's a girlfriend, a partner, a wife, or husband, you don't just lose a person. You lose the imagined future. The version of you that only made sense in the context of us. You're not crying over their toothbrush missing. You're crying because you thought you'd grow old with them. You're not broken because the relationship ended. You're broken because your version of life just collapsed. Epictetus wrote, "Never say about anything, I have lost it, but instead, I have given it back." That's hard to swallow when what you lost was your sense of family, your routine, your safety. But the Stoics weren't cold. They were disciplined. They understood that most suffering doesn't come from what is, but from what we expect it to be. In psychology, this is known as disenfranchised grief. It's the mourning of something others might not see as loss, like a future that never came. Your brain doesn't distinguish between what was real and what was hoped for. It just registers absence. According to research published in Frontiers in Psychology, the attachment system in our brain reacts to both physical separation and emotional abandonment the same way it reacts to danger, by sending the mind into panic and the body into withdrawal. You're not just sad, you're neurologically wired to feel unanchored. Take Alan, 45, from Ohio. Married 12 years, no major fights. One day his wife said she hadn't been in love for years. She moved out the following month. The hardest part for Alan wasn't the silence. It was the phantom life. The future Christmases. The trips they said they'd take post-retirement. The idea of becoming grandparents. The inside jokes. Now he's not just rebuilding a schedule, he's rebuilding a self-concept. Because that version of him, the one that made sense with her in the picture, no longer exists. This pain is not irrational, it's rooted in neural bonds. According to Dr. Helen Fisher, biological anthropologist at Rutgers University, romantic attachment activates the brain's dopamine pathways, the same system responsible for addiction. Your brain isn't just reacting to absence, it's in withdrawal from a deeply ingrained emotional habit. So how do you stop longing for a future that was never guaranteed? You confront it, systematically. First, write down every part of the future you assumed you'd live with them. All of it. The trips, the family traditions, the retirement plans, the conversations you thought you'd have at age 60. Don't filter. This isn't about being tough. This is about being honest. Next, go line by line. Mark what was real, what you actually shared, and what was imagined. Then ask yourself, which parts of this future are still possible, even without them? A peaceful home? Still possible. A strong relationship with your kids? Still possible. Growing old with dignity and purpose? Still on the table. This is called timeline disentanglement. You're separating what was real from what was projected. It feels brutal, but it's how you pull yourself out of the illusion that everything good in life depended on them. You also need to reclaim your routines. If Tuesday night was movie night, don't erase it, rewrite it. Do not live in the echo of what was. The couch, the dinner table, the bed, these don't belong to the past. They belong to you. Rituals without ownership become ghosts. Another practice, Stoic negative visualization. Imagine losing the things you still have, your health, your children, your agency. It's not a punishment, it's a recalibration. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not indulge in dreams of what you have lost, but count what is still yours, and think how eagerly you would long for it if you did not have it." The pain you feel is not weakness, it's data. It tells you what you valued. But that value doesn't die with a person. It can be rechanneled into purpose, into structure, into becoming the version of you that isn't dependent on anyone else to feel whole. You're not grieving a person, you're grieving a version of yourself that no longer fits your reality. And that's not the end of your story. That's the moment it splits, and you get to write the next part with sharper eyes and stronger hands. Number 2, no one belongs to you. They're only with you until they're not. We think love means possession. We call people my wife, my man, my person, as if connection implies ownership. But the truth is harsher and far more liberating. No one belongs to you. Not your partner, not your children, not even the dog that follows you from room to room. They are with you until they're not. And the moment they choose another path, your suffering comes not from the loss itself, but from the belief that they shouldn't have gone. The Stoics were blunt about this. Epictetus wrote, "Never say of anything, 'I have lost it,' but only that I have given it back." He applied this to people as much as to things. You don't lose a person. You return them to the universe from which they came. They were never yours to begin with, only passing through your story, or a chapter, or maybe 2. Think of love like a train platform. You stand together for a time, sharing laughter, plans, hopes, and the illusion of forever. Then one day, their train arrives. You can scream, you can beg, you can chase it down the tracks. But if that train isn't yours, you can't be on it. All you can do is stand with grace, wave goodbye, and return to your platform. Let's ground this in reality. Carol, 52 from Arizona, spent nearly 2 decades in what she called a forever marriage, until it wasn't. Her husband met someone else, left with a clean break, and started a new life across the country. Her rage wasn't just heartbreak, it was betrayal of narrative. "He was mine," she told her therapist. "We built everything together. He had no right." But here's the hard Stoic truth. Yes, he did. Because no person, regardless of vows, time, or loyalty, is ever truly yours. This applies even outside of romance. Your son grows up and moves across the country to marry someone you barely know. Your daughter cuts contact for reasons you'll never understand. Even your dog, after years at your side, chooses to sleep by your elderly mother's bed instead of yours. Every part of your identity that depended on someone else being near becomes unstable when they go. That is not failure. That is the reality of freedom. Seneca warned us, "He who binds himself to another's fate binds himself to grief." When you build your emotional stability on another human's presence, you are not loving, you are gambling. And eventually, the house always wins. Here's an exercise. Write down the names of the people closest to you. For each name, ask one brutal question. If they left tomorrow, emotionally, physically, permanently, who would I be without them? Not how would you feel? Who would you be? If the answer is I don't know, then your identity has fused with someone else's autonomy. That fusion is what Stoicism trains you to untangle. It's not detachment in the cold sense. It's detachment in the disciplined sense. You can love deeply without chaining your self-worth to whether someone stays or goes. You can invest without owning. You can care without clinging. Here's a simple, practical strategy to train this mindset. Practice voluntary release. Once a week, choose something small that brings you comfort. Your favorite mug, your go-to playlist, your usual seat at the table, and go without it. Give it up for 24 hours. Not because it's bad, but because it's not yours. It never was. This trains your mind to live without leaning. When the bigger departures come, and they will, you won't collapse. You'll already be practiced in the art of letting go. Now an image. Imagine your life as a house. People come in and out. Friends, partners, children, even pets. Some stay for a season, some for years. Some rearrange the furniture, hang pictures, paint walls, but none of them own the house. Only you hold the deed. When someone leaves, you don't burn the house down. You take down their photo, fix the wall, and keep the lights on. That is the mindset of emotional sovereignty. What does this look like in real life? It means not checking your ex-partner's social media like a reflex. It means not measuring your worth by your child's approval. It means recognizing that your loyalty to someone doesn't entitle you to permanence. It means saying, if you stay, I will love you with my whole heart. If you leave, I will not fall apart. Marcus Aurelius said, receive without pride, let go without attachment. This is your daily Stoic practice. The next time someone you care for chooses distance, don't ask why they left. Ask why you believed they never would. Then remind yourself, I don't own people. I witness them. I walk with them. And when they go, I stay whole. The ultimate act of love is letting someone go and staying at peace with yourself. Not because you don't care, but because you finally understood. The only thing that truly belongs to you is you. Number 3, pain doesn't kill you. Resistance does. Pain is not your enemy. Resistance is. The more you fight reality, the more it owns you. When someone walks out of your life, what destroys you isn't their absence. It's your refusal to let the truth settle. You don't suffer because they're gone. You suffer because you keep screaming silently or aloud, this shouldn't be happening. But it is. And every second you deny that, you're driving the knife deeper, not into memory, but into your own flesh. The Stoics saw this clearly. Cleanthes, an early Stoic philosopher, said, fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling. You can go with life, or you can be dragged through it. Either way, you're going. Pain comes with the change. Suffering comes from your refusal to change with it. Think of grief like a wave. You can brace and clench, trying to stand against it, and it will crush you. Or you can dive through it, let it pass over you, and rise on the other side, soaked but still breathing. Stoicism teaches us not to fear the wave, but to stop pretending the water isn't rising. Consider David, 41, from Denver. His partner of 7 years ended their relationship abruptly, citing the classic, "It's not you, it's me." For 3 months, David didn't just hurt, he resisted. He kept checking her messages, convincing himself she'd come back, blaming himself, blaming her, running endless simulations of conversations that never happened. His therapist told him, flat out, "You're not mourning her. You're wrestling with the fact that it's over." The moment he stopped fighting that truth, the pain didn't vanish, but it became something he could move through, not something that pinned him in place. Modern psychology backs this. Dr. Stephen Hayes, founder of Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, ACT, explains that avoidance of emotional pain actually amplifies it. When you say, "I shouldn't feel this way," your brain hears, "There's danger here," and doubles down on survival mode. You trap yourself in the emotional loop. Resistance magnifies distress. Acceptance diffuses it. This doesn't mean giving up, it means giving in to what is. There's a massive difference. Giving up says, "I'll be miserable forever." Giving in says, "I'll stop pretending this isn't real." That's the first doorway to healing. Try this. Every time you feel that sharp edge of grief or regret, don't push it away. Name it. This is loss. This is change. This is disappointment. Then say to yourself, "And I can carry this." Not fight it, not suppress it. Carry it. Stoicism is not emotional suppression, it's emotional containment, like a steel frame around molten lava. The heat's there, but it's held. Here's a simple home practice. The 5-minute sit. No distractions, no music, no phone, just you and the ache. Set a timer, sit still, let the pain rise, crest, and crash. Observe it like weather. You'll be surprised how much passes through when you stop locking the doors against it. Most people never truly feel their emotions, they just fight them. Stoics sit with them and ask, what's real here? Let's use an image. Imagine you're clenching a burning coal, furious that it hurts. You shout, why is this happening? Why me? But the coal doesn't care. It burns anyway. And the tighter you grip, the deeper the damage. Letting go isn't weakness, it's intelligence. It's self-preservation. You don't have to like the fire, but you do have to stop holding it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Revoke your resistance, not by pretending it doesn't hurt, but by accepting that pain is part of healing. You're not broken because you feel pain. You're healing because you finally stopped pretending you don't. There's also strength in ritual. Create one moment daily where you consciously accept what's gone. It could be lighting a candle, writing one sentence, it happened, I'm still here. Saying aloud in the mirror, I release my resistance to this pain. It may feel ridiculous at first, that's fine. The mind needs practice to reshape its grip on reality. You're not performing weakness, you're building strength through alignment. And if you're still clinging to the question, why did they leave, or why me? Pause. Recognize this is another form of resistance, not inquiry. Grasping. You're not looking for truth, you're looking for a way to rewind time. Stop. Ask instead, what now? What kind of person do I want to become on the other side of this? Because here's the truth. The pain is here either way. You can feel it while standing or feel it while sinking. One gives you a chance to move, the other doesn't. You're not dying from this. You're being refined by it. The fire you're in now is not cremation, it's forging. And every time you stop resisting, you take another step out of the flame with your spine straighter and your soul quieter. You don't need less pain, you need less denial. And when you finally stop arguing with reality, you'll find it's not as unbearable as you feared. It just needed you to stop clenching. Number 4, you love them fully. Now love yourself completely. You gave them your heart without conditions. You showed up when it wasn't convenient. You forgave more than once. You stayed when it got hard. That was real. And if they walked away from that kind of love, it's not your shame to carry. The truth is simple and hard. You loved them honestly. Now it's time to love yourself with the same devotion you gave to them. There's a dangerous illusion in heartbreak, the belief that your goodness was wasted, that all the care, the patience, the loyalty was for nothing. But that's not how life works. That's not how character works. Seneca wrote, no man was ever wise by chance. And I'll add, no one becomes deeply good by accident either. You loved them like a rare kind of human, one who doesn't withhold, one who gives. That's not weakness. That's moral power. But here's the turn you need to take. Devotion to someone else is only noble when it doesn't come at the cost of devotion to yourself. Too often we confuse sacrifice with virtue. You cancel your needs, you swallow pain, you shrink to keep the peace, and you call it love. But if the person on the other side of that sacrifice walks away and you're left with nothing, not even yourself, then what you called love was slow self-erasure. The Stoics would call that irrational. Epictetus reminded us, know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. Loving someone doesn't mean losing yourself in them. It means standing beside them, strong in your own essence. If they leave, that core should remain intact. Let's look at Jason, 44, from Florida. He was the guy who did everything right, at least by traditional standards. Flowers, anniversaries remembered, emotional support, dishes done without asking. For years he poured himself into his marriage. But slowly, quietly, he stopped checking in with himself. He let small slights slide. He gave up the gym. He tolerated disrespect under the label of compromise. When his wife left for someone else, he didn't just lose a relationship. He realized he'd lost himself long before she walked out. That's the danger. When you give everything away, you're not left empty because someone left. You're left empty because you didn't keep anything for yourself. But here's the shift. Being a good person does not mean being a martyr. Your kindness is not a transaction. The universe doesn't always pay back immediately, but the law of cause and effect never fails. The person who lies may appear to win in the short term, but they live in their own shadow. You, on the other hand, who loved with integrity, walk away with clean hands and a clear heart. That's power. Quiet, deep, unshakable power. In psychology, this aligns with self-concept clarity. The more you live in alignment with your values, honesty, generosity, patience, the stronger your internal foundation becomes. But when those values are only directed outward and never back toward yourself, you create an imbalance. Self-respect collapses. Depression creeps in. You feel betrayed, but it's not just by them. It's by the version of you who abandoned yourself for their comfort. Let me give you a visual. Imagine you're a houseplant. You've spent years turning toward someone else's sunlight, twisting, bending, overreaching just to stay close to their warmth. And now that they're gone, you're wilting. But you were never rooted in them. The soil is still yours. The water's still in reach. You just need to rotate. Give yourself light, straighten your spine, grow again, this time upright. Here's your practical challenge. Every time you catch yourself thinking about what you could have done better for them, stop and ask, what am I doing right now to care for myself? Redirect, immediately. 5 push-ups, a walk around the block. Write a paragraph about what kind of partner you want to be, not just what kind you want to find. This breaks the loop of self-blame and recenters your energy, and start giving yourself what you once gave away so freely. Attention, forgiveness, encouragement, love. Don't wait for someone else to reflect it back. Be the source. You were never meant to abandon yourself to keep someone else. Stoicism demands inner loyalty. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Start with how you treat yourself. If you loved them with everything you had and they still left, that's not proof you were wrong to love. It's proof they weren't capable of receiving it. Some people run from depth because they haven't faced their own. Some people fear real love because they've only known control. That's not your burden. Let them go. Your burden now is different. To make sure the person you abandoned the least is you. You loved them fully. Now love yourself completely. And this time, don't leave. Number 5, waiting for closure, is how you keep yourself locked in a cage. You sit there, replaying everything, every word they said, every moment they looked away, every shift in tone. You tell yourself you just need one more conversation, one more explanation, one clean ending. But here's the brutal truth. They are not coming to save you from the uncertainty they left you in. And the longer you wait for closure from them, the longer you stay a prisoner of the pain they caused. You don't need their final words. You need your own final decision. Closure is a myth sold by people afraid to take back their power. The idea that someone else needs to hand you peace is one of the most seductive lies grief tells. You think, if they would just tell me why, if they would just admit what they did, if they could just say they're sorry, I could move on. But you wouldn't. You'd want more. You'd want a different ending. Because closure isn't about clarity, it's about control. And Stoicism teaches you to release anything that depends on another person's will. Epictetus said it best, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Closure, when placed in someone else's hands, is slavery. The Stoic chooses inner clarity over external validation. The pain may be loud, but the commitment to one's own peace must be louder. Take the case of Michelle, 36, from Portland. After 5 years with her fiancé, he called off the engagement via a 2-minute phone call and disappeared from her life. She was left with a half-packed apartment, a wedding dress in the closet, and no explanation. For months, she tried to reach him, not to get him back, but to understand. Why? What happened? What changed? But every unanswered text became another cut. Every silent day deepened the wound. She didn't need answers. She needed to stop handing him the keys to her mental freedom. This is where psychology confirms what the Stoics knew all along. Dr. Pauline Boss, a researcher in ambiguous loss, explains that unresolved endings create psychological paralysis. The brain craves narrative. It wants a beginning, middle, and end. When a relationship ends without a clear why, your mind keeps spinning in the void, trying to close a loop that was never meant to be closed by the other person. The solution? You become the author. You finish the sentence. You say, I may never know, and I don't need to. Here's a Stoic-inspired technique you can use at home. It's called final page writing. Sit down and write the last page of your relationship. Not what happened, but what you decide the meaning of it will be. You can include the pain, the joy, the disappointment, but you must end with a declaration. This chapter is closed, not because they said so, but because I did. Read it every day for a week. Let your brain digest your own decision, not someone else's absence. You need to reclaim authorship. Right now, you're standing outside a door someone slammed shut, hoping they'll come back and explain why they locked it. But that door doesn't lead anywhere anymore. You can't wait for someone else to narrate your healing. The longer you wait for them to clarify the past, the more you delay your future. Here's a metaphor. Imagine you're in a dark room with the lights turned off by someone else. You're stumbling around, begging for them to come back and turn them on. Stoicism says, light your own match, see what's in the room, accept what's broken, and walk out, eyes open. You are not powerless. You are not waiting. You are choosing. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength starts the moment you stop waiting for someone else's permission to heal. And what if they do come back with closure? What if months or years later, they say all the things you wanted to hear? Here's the uncomfortable truth. It won't change the time you lost waiting. It might soothe something in you for a moment, but it won't give you back the months you spent in limbo. And often, it won't even make sense anymore, because the you that waited is not the you that finally stood up. Closure isn't a door they open for you. It's a wall you stop leaning on. And the moment you step back from it, you realize it's just a wall, cold, silent, and immovable. Your life was never meant to stay paused in front of someone else's silence. Here's something else to try. Instead of writing to them, like unsent letters, texts you delete, write to yourself. Write the apology you wish they'd given. Then respond to it from your own voice, your own strength. This isn't fantasy, it's integration. It tells your nervous system, we are not waiting anymore, we are moving forward. Because waiting is a kind of worship. And they are not your God, they are not your healer. They are just a person who made a choice. And now it's your turn to make one. You don't need a tidy explanation to end a story. Life rarely gives one. What you need is resolve. The kind that says, this hurt me, but it doesn't own me. This chapter shaped me, but it doesn't define me. You want closure? Write it yourself. Burn the hope for a final conversation. That's not where peace is. Peace lives in your decision to stop knocking on a locked door and to start building a new house with your own hands. Conclusion, you've made it this far, but we're not done yet. This journey of letting go, of reclaiming your own strength and direction, is only halfway complete. The truth is, this video has already covered so much, but there are still 4 more principles you need to fully master the art of release. 4 more insights that will elevate your resilience, sharpen your clarity, and empower you to rebuild from the ashes of what was lost. But this video has already run long, so we'll continue our exploration in part 2, where I'll reveal the final 4 principles that will help you transform pain into power. These principles are just as essential, just as powerful, and just as necessary for true mastery. They are not for everyone, only for those who refuse to be defined by their past, only for those who are ready to reclaim their future. Make sure you don't miss it. Hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to hear this truth. Drop a comment below, either your own story of release or a personal command you're carrying into the future. Something like, I will rebuild stronger, or I carry only what empowers me. This is Victory Stoic, where pain is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of your strength. Stay tuned for part 2.